Mr. Men and Little Miss Treasury. I have tons of stories to tell you. Come and see. There we are. Today's story I picked is Little Miss Bossy and the Magic Word. Little Miss Bossy is bossy, bossier than the bossiest person you know. She is also very rude, nearly as rude as Mr. Uppity, which is very rude indeed. She never says please, and she never says thank you. Like the time she met Mr. Sneeze. Achoo! Sneezed Mr. Sneeze. Stop sneezing, ordered Miss Bossy. I can't. Achoo! Help it, replied Mr. Sneeze. Nonsense, said Miss Bossy. Like the time she met little Miss Chatterbox. Good morning, said Miss Chatterbox. Lovely day, isn't it? Just the right weather for a walk. Talking about the weather. Be quiet, ordered Miss Bossy. And like the time she tripped over Mr. Small. You're too small, exclaimed Miss Bossy. Grow up. I can't, said Mr. Small. Then get out of my way in future, ordered Miss Bossy. Poor Mr. Sneeze, poor little Miss Chatterbox, and poor Mr. Small. It was Mr. Small who decided that something had to be done. He went to see little Miss Magic, and once he had explained the problem, she agreed to teach Miss Bossy a lesson. And I think I know just how to do it, she replied. The next day, little Miss Bossy bumped into Mr. Greedy. You're too big, she cried. Lose some weight. At the same time, little Miss Magic, who had followed Miss Bossy, uttered the very magic word. And do you know what happened? Of course you don't. But you do now. Who are you calling big? Laughed Mr. Greedy. You ought to take a look at yourself. Little Miss Bossy was lost for words. As soon as Mr. Greedy had gone, Miss Magic uttered some more magic words, and Miss Bossy returned to normal. Further down the lane, Miss Bossy passed Mr. Cheerful's gate. He was painting stripes on his house to cheer it up. That looks ridiculous, snapped Miss Bossy. Paint over those stripes. Little Miss Magic whispered the very magic word again. Mr. Cheerful started to chuckle. You ought to take a look at yourself, he laughed. Miss Bossy did. She was covered in stripes. From her hiding place, little Miss Magic smiled to himself. Next, she met little Miss Splendid. What a stupid hat, she said. Go and put on something more sensible. Miss Magic uttered the very magic word again, and I'm sure you can guess what happened next. Speak for yourself, said Miss Splendid, bursting into laughter. And for the third time that day, little Miss Bossy was lost for words. Just then, Mr. Small came along. Having a nice day? He asked. Mind your own business, Pipsqueak, snapped Miss Bossy. And who are you to call me Pipsqueak? Said Mr. Small, and chuckled. Haven't you learned your lesson yet? Miss Magic came from behind the tree where she was hiding. Oh, it's you, squeaked Miss Bossy. Turn me back to my proper size. You have to say the magic word, replied Miss Magic. Abracadabra, squeaked Miss Bossy. No, that's not the magic word I was thinking of. I'm sure you know what the magic word is, but it took Miss Bossy a bit longer to think of it. Please, she said eventually. And did she learn her lesson? Well, she learnt one lesson. Little Miss Bossy is still just as bossy as ever, but at least she now says please. Go to sleep! Please. And that's the end of our story. Thank you for coming to the Mr. Men, and I'll see you next week for another Mr. Men story. Goodbye.